Nick Kyrgios and Aryna Sabalenka's Battle of the Sexes promised a show. It did not deliver. It was early in the second set when the television cameras on the UK broadcast started glitching and freezing, leaving Aryna Sabalenka and Nick Kyrgios' self-styled Battle of the Sexes in Dubai behind an interstitial. After a couple of minutes and a few more isolated interruptions, the broadcast resumed, with similar problems on the US broadcast on the tennis channel. The women's world number 1 and the 2022 Wimbledon men's singles finalist, who had spent the lead-up eliding criticism of the event's impact on women's tennis and the sport at large in favor of a focus on entertainment value, played on. But the show that they promised never arrived, and what could have been a tragedy proved to be more of a farce. Kyrgios largely junk-balled his way to a 6-3, 6-3 win, despite a mini Sabalenka revival in the second set that was largely conducted off-camera due to technical issues, at least on the BBC. This was the scenario that women's tennis and sports feared: a loss for the best player in the world to someone who has played 7 matches in 3 years, is currently ranked number 672, was playing with limited intensity and visibly sweating, and managing himself physically after less than half an hour. Were the match anybody's first experience of women's tennis, which just played out a banner season in which 5 different players won its 5 biggest titles, they would have been left underwhelmed and bemused. "I think it was a great level," Sabalenka said on court afterward, before adding in a news conference that she did not understand how people were able to find something negative in this event. "I think for the I think I just showed. I played great tennis. It was an entertaining match. Yes, he won this match, but I showed a great tennis. It wasn't like it was 6-0, 6-0. Pretty big people were messaging me, wishing me all the best. I feel like we just brought more attention to our sport, and I don't see how it can be bad." Kyrgios' ability to accelerate when needed under pressure, compared to Sabalenka's larger number of full-throttle shots, may yet live long enough in the memory to let the downside that Sabalenka has vociferously denied exists to persist. But a flat atmosphere in Dubai, in front of a stadium built to hold 17,000 that had a whole upper level of seating closed off, deflated the weight of history that the Battle of the Sexes name purported to bring to proceedings. On the tennis side, Sabalenka suffered more with the one-serve rule than Kyrgios, hitting 5 faults to 1 for the 30-year-old Australian, but was able to out-hit him in the backhand exchanges. The adjusted court, with 9% less space for Kyrgios to hit the ball into, offered Sabalenka more angles to exploit but let Kyrgios play within his power, too, accelerating when he needed it. Kyrgios and Sabalenka, 27, who are both represented by the Evolve agency, whose co-founder Stuart Dugwood said that the high-profile match would be a good thing for women's tennis, during an interview ahead of the event, trash-talked and bantered with each other throughout. But it largely went unheard, because unlike at exhibitions ahead of Grand Slams, they were not mic'd up. There were no on-court interviews, even during the special timeouts for each player, so there was no window into their mindset. Even the ceremonial hitting of signed tennis balls into the crowd, now a staple of tournaments the world over, was replaced by the master of ceremonies running around with a carrier bag. The match just happened, punctuated by the arrival of Brazilian soccer legends Kaká and Ronaldo, and a slightly excruciating dance break in which Sabalenka did the Macarena while Kyrgios chatted on the sidelines. "It truly is a spectacle," Kyrgios, whose presence on the court at all was also criticized, said when it was over. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to common assault of his then-girlfriend Chiara Passari 2 years earlier, before the charge was dismissed in an Australian court. He has also been criticized for his commentary about women in tennis. The following year, Kyrgios was admonished for writing "second serve" under a picture of himself and another fellow ATP Tour star Jannik Sinner's by then-girlfriend, the top 40 WTA player Anna Kalinskaya. Dugwood described Kyrgios as a friend of women's tennis or women's sport, while both Sabalenka and Kyrgios declined to be interviewed ahead of the match. In his on-court interview, Kyrgios said Sabalenka was right there, and that he had to strap in to avoid losing a match that he said could have gone either way. It was the opposite of that possibility that defined the run-up to the match, with Sabalenka either destined to fall to an off-form player or to beat one who could fall back on the adjusted court and lack of preparation, in a catch-22 for women's tennis. In a news conference at the WTA Tour Finals, She had said that a player with more preparation would leave her with fewer chances. That put the match in opposition to the 1973 Battle of the Sexes between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs, with which it shares its name, which came at the height of the founding of the WTA Tour and the women's movement. King, who won the match, described the Dubai contest as not the same in an interview with the BBC. In the end, she was proved right that a show promised, a show withheld. Kyrgios, Sabalenka, and the battle that wasn't. They called it a battle of the sexes, a phrase heavy with history and expectation. The words themselves crackled with promise, of rivalry, of spectacle, of something that might challenge assumptions and entertain in equal measure. When Nick Kyrgios and Aryna Sabalenka stepped into the spotlight, the marketing had already done half the work. This wasn't supposed to be just tennis. It was meant to be theater. It was meant to be loud, chaotic, dramatic, and unforgettable. Nick Kyrgios promised a show. Aryna Sabalenka, never one to shy away from intensity, brought the aura of raw power and competitive fire. On paper, it looked irresistible, the sport's most combustible showman against one of its most ferocious hitters. Tennis fans leaned forward. Casual viewers tuned in. Social media sharpened its knives, ready to feast on highlights, controversy, or brilliance. And then, somehow, almost unbelievably, the show didn't arrive. The weight of the word show. Nick Kyrgios has built a career not only on talent, but on spectacle. He doesn't just play tennis, he performs it. Every serve is an opportunity for drama, every changeover a potential monologue, every match a negotiation between genius and self-destruction. When Kyrgios promises a show, people believe him, because history says they should. Sabalenka, on the other hand, offers a different kind of theater. Hers is not built on irony or chaos, but on force. The sound of her ground strokes alone can silence a stadium. She represents modern power tennis at its most uncompromising, a reminder that control and aggression can coexist in a single swing. Together, they seemed destined to create contrast, flair versus force, unpredictability versus relentlessness. The marketing leaned into it. The narrative wrote itself. This wasn't about rankings or trophies, it was about entertainment, about bending the rigid traditions of tennis into something looser, louder, and more accessible. That, perhaps, was the first problem.